All right, welcome everyone. I think most of us are here in the session. Thank you for joining today. My name is Julie Gordon and I'll be assisting with today's session. Welcome to Small Business Owners Share What's Next in a Post-COVID-19 World. A few housekeeping items. You're all on mute right now, but feel free to use the chat or Q&A function throughout this session. We'd love to answer as many questions as we can. Also, the session will be recorded, so you'll see an email coming from us later this week that will have this session and any other sessions that you've attended today. So thank you for joining us. It is my pleasure to welcome this incredible panel in front of us, some amazing entrepreneurs that are with us today, as well as our moderator, Amanda Brinkman. So let's go ahead and introduce our panelists. We have Min Cho, who is the CEO, chairman of the board, and co-founder of So Chinese Delivery, a delivery and carry-out only cloud kitchen restaurant. It's a concept that started in Austin, Texas. Min's primary role at So is to provide vision and direction for the company to one day become America's #1 choice for Chinese food delivery. And based on the reviews, Min, I can see why. He leads the team by establishing core values that are centered on providing a benefit to the communities and employees they serve, while also building a company focused on growth and profitability. Welcome to the session, Min.
It's my honor. Thank you very much for including me.
Our next panelist is Dr. Renee Kinney. Renee graduated from the University of New Hampshire with a Bachelor's of Science degree in Chemical Engineering, and later received her master's in chemical engineering from Colorado State University. She worked at Intel Corporation for 6 years as an engineer. In 2010, however, Dr. Kinney made a huge pivot. Personally, she shifted her career focus, graduating from the University of Minnesota School of Dentistry. She then completed a general practice residency at Hennepin County Medical Center and now owns her own practice in Woodbury, Minnesota. Welcome, Renee.
Thanks for having me, Julie.
Yeah, and our third and final panelist is Ben Vanden Mellenberg. Ben is a high-energy, self-made serial entrepreneur who is a firm believer that there's an entrepreneur inside each and every one of us. He believes that knowing your why is the first step to revealing the entrepreneurial mindset. Ben founded Woodchuck USA as an undergraduate senior at the University of Minnesota and is the true visionary behind the company. Welcome, Ben.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
All right, those are our panelists. And our moderator today, you may have met Amanda at the keynote session this morning, but Amanda Brinkman. Amanda is a revolutionary brand marketer, passionate speaker, and the creator, producer, and host of the acclaimed series by Deluxe, the Small Business Revolution Main Street series. Amanda also serves as Deluxe's chief brand officer. Each season, Amanda and her team at Deluxe revitalize a different small town by providing marketing, financial, and operational makeovers for its small businesses. Now in its 5th season, the award-winning series streams on Hulu, Prime Video, and smallbusinessrevolution.org. However, over the last few weeks since COVID, Amanda has been spending significant time interviewing entrepreneurs across the country and is a go-to source for small business media outlets such as Wired and Entrepreneur. Welcome, Amanda, and it's my pleasure to have all of you with us today.
Thank you, Julie. Great job with the introduction. I appreciate you not only kicking us off, but pulling together such an incredible panel of entrepreneurs who are doing amazing things right now. And I think we'll have really great advice for our audience. So thank you, Renee, Ben, and Min for joining us. And thank you again, Julie, for the great introduction. So obviously, each of you have a very different kind of business. So I think all of these questions are going to be so interesting to hear it through the lens of a restaurant, a service-based business, and a manufacturing business. But I think what would be really helpful for everyone to understand is kind of what was kind of pre-COVID state or kind of operations of your business, and what are you kind of experiencing right now? Kind of what are what's giving you the most confidence right now, and what are giving you kind of some of those challenges? So maybe, Min, if we could start with you just to kind of give people a kind of a current, again, level state of understanding your business.
Yeah, thanks, Amanda. So Chinese Delivery was precedented with this idea of marrying, Chinese food cuisine, which is beloved by the entire country, along with technology. And so we've created this online ordering platform, this cloud kitchen platform, and we've had pretty good, reasonable success. The virus, the pandemic that has hit us all recently has had an impact on us as well, but we've had the good fortune to be able to look back and say, determine what it was that was in our technology and systems that has allowed us to overcome so much of the concerns and the impact, especially into the restaurant world. I'm excited that restaurants are starting to open back up now, and we're seeing indications that customers are very eager to return to their favorite food establishments. But that said, I'm also legitimately concerned that people are taking social distancing measures and the mask recommendations not seriously enough. And the last thing we really want is another economy that needs another shelter-in-place order or anything like that, which may really hurt our industry a lot more.
Yeah, I think that's so interesting is kind of customers' comfort level, not just in restaurants, but in retail establishments, et cetera. It seems like everyone kind of is using their own discretion or belief of how seriously to take some of the safety precautions. And it really is in the best interest and health of the entire economy that we all help keep each other safe. But despite our personal beliefs, really think about the respect for other people and for the health of the business that we're patroning. So that is definitely a real challenge. Renee, can you give us a sense for pre-COVID and current state?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So I have a 2-doctor practice. I co-own it with another dentist, and we have 11 team members. It's a busy family dental office in a suburb of Minneapolis, St. Paul. We would typically be running a very busy day, Monday through Friday. We were pretty immediately impacted by COVID, which basically shut us down 100%, with the exception of we were seeing emergency patients as indicated throughout all of this. As of yesterday, we are able to begin seeing patients again. We're starting with things that are more urgent before we move into anything routine. And as we resume patient care, it is with a very different, not different, we've always followed universal precautions, but it's different than it used to be in terms of social distancing around the office. I wear a mask all of the time. It is sitting next to me right now. So as soon as I leave my room, I put my mask on. When we're treating patients, we're wearing N95 masks, we're wearing shields, we're wearing PPE that historically you wouldn't wear in a dental office. And so with that, as we come back into being able to treat patients, that model is very different. We want to provide patients excellent care that is safe. And if you think about how close you are to somebody when you're at the dentist, you're very close. So not only do we need to protect ourselves, but we need to protect our patients. And so it's that safety that is the forefront in our mind. And then when you think about running a business, we're seeing far fewer patients than we used to because we're lengthening our appointments. We have far more PPE that we need to purchase, and it's more expensive than what we historically had to purchase. So figuring all of that out is a big challenge.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we talk about proximity to patients. I mean, your hands are, yes, you are right up there with the patients. And so can completely understand how safety is first and foremost on the top of your mind. So Ben, for you've probably made the biggest shift or pivot, as we're loving to use in the business world right now as a term, in terms of what your business did pre-COVID and what you're doing right now.
Yeah, totally. So Woodchuck USA typically pre-COVID made wood products in custom wood interior paneling. So wood journals, wood flasks, wood bottle openers, and we did a lot of corporate gifting in corporate events for the Fortune 50 to all the way down to your mom and pop companies that might order 10 or 15 journals with their logo on it for your company. Well, when COVID hit, obviously all the events pretty much across the United States and world were canceled. And that was a pretty big portion of our business. So besides our direct mail shipper stuff where, it's like a birthday program where it gets shipped directly to someone's house, which thankfully we still had, it was pretty much our entire business that shut off within a matter of a week or two. I had one of my friends come to me and say, hey, I have an opportunity to make face shields for Alina. Do you guys think you could make about 10,000 of these in a day or two? And, noticing that she didn't have anything else to do, frankly, and that it was a relatively simple design. I said, absolutely. The inner entrepreneur just said, absolutely, we'll do this. We'll figure it out. I'll go assemble myself if I have to. And it was really interesting. The Thursday prior to this happening, which was a couple days, this was a Saturday that he came to me. So a couple days before that, we had kind of come up with the strategy to furlough about a third of our staff, just because sales had completely dropped off. And I was actually driving back into the cities as I was going to be running the lasers personally. And, we were very, very fortunate that my buddy came to us and asked us, and we were able to expand that significantly. And so what we're doing now, what Woodchuck is doing now, and now Woodchuck Medical is the sister company that we've kind of put everything under here. We're manufacturing here in the United States face shields, and we're manufacturing about 250,000 a day between two of our facilities. So we've geared up and ramped up pretty significantly. We've shipped over 3 million shields across the United States to frontline healthcare providers and hospitals in need. And we actually just this last Friday secured the FEMA contract as well. So making everything in America and actually being price competitive with overseas pricing. So we're very, very proud of that. And we're very proud that we can help serve our fellow Americans as we all get back to work and be making that stuff here in the United States.
Well, and thank you for making the pivot. I mean, these face shields are so necessary for safety. I mean, Renee can attest to that. Yeah. All of us can attest to that. And it's an incredible pivot that you've made. And I love it. We featured you in our small business Big Heart series, as well as Min, and so it's Chinese delivery. And I was so taken with just the fact that, that is what the entrepreneurial spirit is so great at, is that you just said, yes, let's do this. Let's go. Let's try and figure it out. And now you're producing 250,000 a day is unbelievable. And I think a big business would have taken longer to debate whether or not to do it, how to get it operationalized, and you just kind of went with it and figured it out as you went, and have done a brilliant job doing that safely and well. And it's benefited your business. I mean, congratulations on the FEMA contract. In a time when this is such a dark time for so many small businesses, we're loving seeing small businesses that are being so innovative and creative actually do well in these times and thrive. And in this particular case, it's by doing something that's so necessary for the safety of Americans. So thank you for that. So cash flow is a big thing on everyone's mind. I mean, having cash as a small business is a challenge in normal circumstances. And then in this COVID crisis, it's even more important. So Renee, can you talk a little bit about, when you started to feel the impact of COVID on kind of your cash flow and how you've managed cash flow throughout it and how you see managing it, moving it forward? Because that makes complete sense that, the number of patients you're able to see, kind of that turn time has changed as well. So the profitability of even the hours that you are open and patients you're seeing is starting to decrease. So anyway, can you just talk a little bit about how you're managing that right now?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So when COVID first started hitting the Midwest, one of the first businesses that was shut down was dentistry, for very reasonable reasons. And so we immediately had more than half of our staff was 100% unemployed. We furloughed them immediately. Monday at like 10 o'clock, we were told as of the next day, we could no longer see patients. And so we had all of our team members apply for unemployment immediately. We went to the bank and got a line of credit right away and had that set up very early on. We applied for the EIDL loan, and then we applied for the PPP loan. And how we're going to use, I'm in no position to advise someone on financial advice, but this is what I did in my particular office. And then how we will utilize that PPP loan, we're working through that right now to maximize the benefit from that loan. And then when we look at a cash flow point of view, because we tend to bill things at the time of service, and then it will go to insurance, and then it'll come back to us. We still had cash coming in for a period of time, and we still have some cash coming in, although not very much. As we're starting to treat patients again, that cash is going to be delayed in coming to us. And so that's where we really are going to need to leverage that PPP loan and the line of credit potentially.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is interesting how many different loan options there have been, and all of the debates around the PPP loans, and if they're forgivable or not, and access to them, and if it's been treated equally in urban areas as well as rural areas. So you're right, that is complicated, but it's interesting how again, we always see that small businesses have a hard time with cash flow normally, and right now this is such a heightened state of thinking about it. So Ben, how have you obviously we heard a little bit about how you have changed things from an operational perspective, as in completely changing what you produce and manufacture, but you've done really interesting things with partnering with big businesses. I mean, I think that's what's fascinating, is that a small business is the one to react and to put it into place, but you've found really great relationships with larger businesses in the Minneapolis area to allow you better access to resources and distribution. Can you just talk a little bit about how you've kind of operationally changed some of those things and how you were able to kind of leverage those partnerships?
Yeah, totally. So, what we did in our business prior was actually pretty similar to what we're doing now. And it's really just being that aggressive, agile company on the front end and utilizing the partnerships of really big corporations on the back end. So, our typical business, we're working with a lot of these Fortune 50, Fortune 500 companies, for corporate gifting. And we're that young, agile, super aggressive company that'll get them product and whatever they need within a day or two, right? It's just, big companies are really great at certain things, and young, agile companies are really great at certain things, and they're two completely different things. And that's what we were able to do in this case, as well as leverage our relationship with 3M. We became a 3M preferred converter, which is something that less than 1% of their converters typically get to. And we were able to leverage that and make them really successful and us really successful in our endeavor to help save lives across the United States. The things we learned early on, that supply chain was a huge, huge issue, even more so than cash flow. In that, we were sourcing, stuff from all over the place. We had bought enough elastic to stretch from the East Coast to the West Coast. And we were buying this from 30 or 40 different vendors. There's different terms. It was crazy. It was a supply chain nightmare. And scaling up to where we're at right now wouldn't have been able to happen without the partnership with 3M on the supply chain side. So, like I said, there's kind of things that the big companies good at, small companies good at, at the same time. So 3M came in, stepped in, did a great job at helping us get direct supply chain and all these items. But 3M couldn't service, or wouldn't have been able to service, that first order to Alina, or frankly, the first 2 weeks of orders, which was over 1.5 million units. So there was that gap, but there's also the gap that we had, and working together and helping each other with our strengths has really created an incredible partnership that we're very, very fortunate to have, and frankly is helping save a lot of lives.
I love it. And it's actually a great analogy for our economy as well. As passionate as I am about small businesses, we also in this country and in our economy need big businesses as well. And so it's a really beautiful marriage of the two, the things that both of you are great at, both small business and big business coming together to solve problems, and in this case, truly save lives. So it's unbelievable. So Min, I know you've been doing some creative things too around cash flow and funding and things like that, but I know you are also active in quite a few different industry groups and business groups, and kind of what are you hearing from other entrepreneurs and other business leaders right now, both around kind of the financial piece of it and just kind of how they've shifted their business and how they're thinking about financing?
Yeah, I have the good fortune of being part of a Facebook private group where a lot of my peers, they have their own dental clinics or they have their own optometry clinics. And it's really nice to have several different perspectives on how they're attacking this pandemic, and really the response on the responsibilities that they have as small businesses in this community. Part of the private Facebook group where we discuss the climate and the outlook of the businesses, we share the news, we discuss the PPP, the EIDL, other grant and loan opportunities that we may find. And, it's very similar to what you're doing here, Amanda, with Deluxe. There are so many resources and webinars out there designed to help provide, the best information available. And so, the general advice here is that it's okay to seek help and go out there and find more information, because there are so many resources out there. It's what I've had to do. It's what I've learned to become better at during this time. And so, this is why it's such a privilege for me to listen to all of you guys and learn as I am literally sitting here during this seminar. And as far as cash flow, we did have to make some adjustments. Again, we'll talk about this later on, but technology has been a very big part of how we are able to manage that and supplement the income there. So yeah, there are avenues out there. We just have to be willing to seek it out and make it our own once we find it.
This is what's so interesting about right now is like, this is the business right now, is trying to figure out, what does your business look like? I think the first couple of weeks of the crisis, I think a lot of us, both personally and professionally, we're just kind of trying to almost bide some time. Like, it's got to go back to normal, or when will it go back to normal? And it's becoming very apparent that even after, stay-at-home orders are lifted and such, not everything's going to go exactly back to the way it was before immediately, or maybe for quite some time. And so I think that right now, I won't use the word silver lining, but I think one of the benefits right now is that small businesses can use this time. I shouldn't even use the word benefits, but one of the opportunities right now is to use this time to really get kind of focused and focus on pieces of the business that perhaps you weren't paying as much attention to, whether it's marketing or technology, or to your point, and then like just furthering your own education. There are resources out there. And I think it is a trap of being an entrepreneur, is you feel like you have to have all the answers. You started the business, you're building the business, you built it from a place of strength. And so I think it's very tempting to feel like you have to know all the aspects of running a business. And there's no possible way that any one human being or brain is smart at all of the aspects that it takes to run a business, everything from financing to marketing to operations. So I do think that this is a really good use of time right now, is that people are leaning into and utilizing the resources that are out there to continue to get better at some of those pieces that maybe were always a bit of an Achilles heel, but also, using those resources that people are trying to provide to get through these times. So Ben, you've obviously expanded into an entire new market. Will there ever be a time that you just go back to Woodchuck wood manufacturing, or is Woodchuck medical? Like, this is now, would you almost call this, I said I wouldn't use the word silver lining, but you've actually found new market opportunities. I mean, as you're talking to other entrepreneurs, how are you kind of advising them to think about these times and trying to seek out, what is the market asking for right now? What are customers asking for right now? And how do you kind of lean into taking advantage of some of these new market opportunities and broadening your addressable market in some cases, like you have?
Yeah, totally. I guess, so there's like 6 parts, I think, to that question, and I'll try and keep it as concise as possible.
Answer any of the 6, whichever one.
Yeah, so I think a big part of our ability to pivot and move into this new market and serve people was our core values. So we follow something called Traction EOS. For those of you business owners listening to this that haven't heard of Traction EOS, I don't make any money off Traction, but I tell every business owner about it because it's truly changed our business. I frankly don't think we'd be in business if it wasn't for Traction. So if you haven't checked that out, please go check that out. But it's called Traction EOS by Gino Wickman. And, we have 3 core values that are pretty aggressive. It's premium, beast mode, and I won't say the F word, but it's no effing boundaries. So we're a very, like I was kind of saying before, young, agile company, and we have a very aggressive mindset about how we pursue business. We're an American manufacturing company that we started 8 years ago that wants to make products in America and continue to make products in America. And that's kind of our thesis. We also want to put nature back into people's lives. And that's not a normal thing, right? Most of the manufacturing today happens overseas. You can ship it in, and frankly, you can make more money that way. But one of the things that we set out to early on from a business kind of moral and model perspective is that we wanted to manufacture here. And that actually allowed us to move into this face shield manufacturing at a very quick pace. If we were outsourcing everything, which frankly for the 8 years prior, we would have made way more money on our products. But it wasn't about that. It was about this kind of ethos and this business model. So it allowed us to move into this. Yes, we have sectioned off Woodchuck Medical. It is a new and completely separate company and identity now. The core values behind that still being American made. I think one thing that a lot of people have learned that, relying so heavily on overseas manufacturing can be a downfall in certain times like this. And maybe a percentage or a small portion needs to stay in the States. So our goal for the past month and a half has been to not only make it here, but continue to march down our retail price point for medical providers so we can be a long-term solution for what they were currently buying overseas. And I'm proud to announce our model that we launched just next week will be competitive with overseas pricing. That was kind of our goal from 2 months ago, which I'm effing proud of. I would really like to swear there. But, you know, honestly, that was a really, really big thing for us that we started out with the mindset of when we started this project, we said, this isn't going to be something we do short term. This is going to be something we want to change the narrative of what's happening right now as far as us purchasing products. And we want to be not only just a solution because it's mandated that you got to buy a certain amount in America, who knows if it will be. If anyone from government is listening and has some pull there, we hope it is, right? But if it's not, we want to be a viable solution that can compete with these other things and create jobs here. You know, we're providing over 400 jobs on a daily basis now due to creating shields, and we want to continue doing that. So hopefully that answered your couple point question there.
Well, all of it was brilliant and well said. I mean, now I have 6 things I want to react to that you said. Well, first of all, I love that you're providing so much employment, and I do think that what's so fascinating about your entire answer is like you're building and thriving in a business like in this time that is so uncertain, and it's really inspiring and gives me hope for business owners, because you found an area of your business to be building in a time where so many businesses are just kind of trying to survive. And I think that it should be a source of inspiration to other business owners of what could you be modifying, what could you be adding. I just listened to your energy, and it's again just really rewarding to hear someone who's doing such cool things right now. It's awesome. So Min, I know you have made a lot of operational shifts, but your business was already kind of one of the things that you shared in your Small Business Big Heart interview is that, we're essentially asking restaurants to change their operational model overnight. So few restaurants and kitchens are set up to do curbside or delivery or takeout in an efficient manner or in a profitable way. But your business, because of your investment in technology early on, and because that's such a core of your business, you were really kind of set up in this environment. But even you being set up to respond to delivery and curbside and takeout have made even more operational shifts and changes and become even more efficient. Can you talk a little bit about how you and your team went through that process? And the second part of the question is, which pieces of those are going to stay even when, stay-at-home orders are lifted and people start coming back out? Have you actually discovered things that you maybe wish you would have been doing it this way before, and you're going to keep those in place? That was 3 or 4.
I'll try to tackle them. So yeah, at So Chinese, we've certainly made some adjustments in our kitchens to keep up with the new city guidelines, the health department guidelines. But it's really important that you try to stay very aggressive and ahead of this. One of the things that we tried to do was go well beyond the measures that were required, because in this weird state we're in right now, especially with restaurants, consumer confidence is pretty low. And so in order for us to gain that confidence back, we have to, communicate with our customers that, we are worthy of their trust and that we are doing things the right way. Some other things that we did was we made it a very important responsibility of ours to connect with our community a lot more than we have before. We are we're a Chinese restaurant that was driven on a tech platform, which doesn't really scream, hey, human touch and a lot of personal relationships. And so for us during this time, it was important that we reached out to the community, which is why we started the So Giving campaign that, you're well aware of. But I think what was really, really important was that, we needed to make sure that our staff and our employees and our customers were all on the same page that this was a community effort. And so all the operational changes that we've made was driven around that. How do we communicate this confidence with our customers so that we're all here really to support each other, both to our customers and so that our customers have an opportunity to support the small businesses that really are the driving force behind the economies that, that we currently live in. I've already forgotten what your second question was, if you want to run that.
No, it was just what are some of those changes that you had to put in place or were forced to kind of pivot to incorporate that you actually have led to efficiencies and that you continue to keep in place, and you did kind of address that. So
so for us, again, we were fortunate that we already had a platform that was really well suited for the current conditions. We're not taking that for granted, though. We are doubling down on a lot of the software implementation. We've actually almost doubled our expense into the software because we know now that the contactless curbside delivery is going to be far more important. We know now that kiosk service or the ability to order on your own is more important, and so we're providing a lot more services through our software that way. So the changes that really were inevitable, but probably down the future or down the road a little bit further, have been really catapulted by this pandemic. And so, again, in our efforts to try to stay well ahead of this, we are investing a lot of time and money into that now, so that we can be well prepared going down the road.
I think that's so wise. I mean, the thing that we're noticing about consumers is that, consumer behavior is adapting quite quickly to this current environment. And, things like curbside delivery or curbside pickup and ordering things online, those were consumer habits that were, already starting to be adopted. But this has fast forwarded that. And now consumers are going to come to expect this, even again, once they're able to have in-person purchases or experiences. There's convenience to it, and there's just kind of now this customer experience expectation that this current crisis has forced, but that will most likely not go away, and certainly not universally go away. And so investing in technology now when businesses can, if businesses can, I think is really wise, because you're setting yourself up for future success and that consumer behavior. And so, Renee, I'm interested, from a technology perspective, when we think about kind of the future or this dawn of telemedicine, are there things on the technology side that you're starting to invest in now, knowing that you're opening your office back up to patients, but are there opportunities that telemedicine would have helped with right now if you had some of that technology in place, and what are you kind of thinking about as you look towards the future and kind of, again, consumer behavior?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think your point of what we do now benefiting us later, and also what we did in the past and how that's positioned us to really be able to leverage some of those decisions we made earlier to be successful now, is really critical. We were forced to make a couple of technology changes within the last few months right before COVID hit, because we had some things that we just had to do, and that has really positioned us to be able to function as an office better now, to be able to to take phone calls remotely, to be able to do some of those things remote. Now, providing patient care is really challenging if the patient's not here, from a dental point of view, but I did a telemedicine conference this morning with a patient that had an issue at home that it really was a matter of education. And so we did a video chat, and we were able to help him with his particular issue that otherwise would have been a trip to the office, which saves him any potential exposure, saves us. It's just a safer way to be able to treat patients when we can do that. In terms of pivoting to telemedicine, I think that we are doing more on the phone than we used to do, and a bit more video. But how much does that actually do we do in the future? I don't know. I think a number of we want to be able to, the decisions we make now, be able to utilize those in the future and not just be trying to fight a fire. And I think that we have actually been very well positioned to utilize what we had purchased in the past and what we had set up in the past to be effective now. And Min brought up how do customers feel? Do they feel safe? And how do our patients feel? And do they feel safe? And utilizing technology to communicate that to our patients, to say, these are the changes that we've made. These are the recommendation of the CDC, of OSHA, of the Minnesota Board of Dentistry. And here's what we've implemented in our office. Here's how your experience is going to be different when you come in from what it was in the past. And actually, when someone's in the dental chair and they're having treatment, it's pretty much the same. We look different. We have more PPE on, and their experience coming into our office, and the communication with our front desk is very different in terms of more communication, asking patients to wait in their car before they come up, having someone greet them at the door and bring them back into an operatory. And, you know, how do we position ourselves so in the future we can utilize these things and the changes we've made now?
Well, and you know, at Deluxe, we work with small businesses on marketing, and one of the things we've been talking about a lot is marketing is your opportunity to be communicating these safety precautions you're taking. So there's the safety measures you're taking as a business, and then there's communicating those to your customers, and that part doesn't cost anything or take any effort other than making sure that you're being very clear about what is the process. So, you know, to Min's point, there are plenty of people who maybe aren't adhering to safety and wearing masks, and for as many people who aren't, there are people who are afraid to leave their homes and are almost paralyzed by fear around the virus for good reason. And so as a business, first of all, if we're already taking these safety precautions, how are we making sure that our customers know that so that they feel safe? Let's leverage the fact that we're making these changes as businesses and make sure that we're being clear about the process. So if it's a restaurant, what is the process for where you pick it up? How will we keep you safe throughout that interaction? What can you expect? How do you communicate with us throughout the process? And then also, you know, what are some of those non-verbal cues? You know, are your employees wearing masks and gloves and giving the not just impression of safety, but showing that those safety precautions have been taken? I think communicating right now is more important than ever, and marketing is your avenue to do that. And so I love that not only you're taking those safety precautions, but that you're thinking proactively about how do we communicate these efforts that we're going through in order to keep you safe. I think customers want that, even if they're maybe not someone who's following the safety precautions. Everybody wants to feel like where they're going is going to be a safe environment. I also have lost a filling. So if we could, at the end of this Zoom call, if you could do a little telemedicine for me, that would be great.
Yeah, we can make that happen. Just a little live demo.
Yeah, let's show people how it works. I'm sure that's why everybody is attending this session. Okay, so shifting gears a little bit. So you're all three of you are the CEOs, you run your companies. How, you know, Ben, I'd love to hear from you. How has this shifted what you're spending your time on? You know, you've previously been kind of the business development guy. You're great at relationships and building those relationships. At one point you referenced that you were going to have to do the laser cutting at the beginning, but what are you spending your time on right now as a CEO, and what are you learning from that?
Yeah, so yes, I was ready to be the laser cutter for an indefinite amount of time, but you know, most of my time has been spent with the partnerships that we have now with the 3Ms, with the large hospitals, the BJCs, Fastenal, FEMA, et cetera, and also very closely managing finances. So, you know, I had a controller, have a president of the company as well. But due to just the complexities of how much stuff exists here, we've actually set up someone that specifically on a daily basis, we have touch points of the inflows and outflows, just because there's so much stuff that goes on a daily basis. And for the Ozarks fans out there, we call it the Marty meeting. So it's, you know, basically everything cash flow related and really managing tightly, because one small misstep in one direction could be really bad for a lot of different reasons. So anyway, I spend most of my time there. At the same time, you know, it's kind of not either or, it's and at the same time, getting our Woodchuck products back up and running as companies are starting to open back up, kind of helping, you know, resurge that with a fresh burst of energy. And then also, you know, really, as any new company takes a large amount of time and energy, setting up the structure for our new Woodchuck medical company.
Yeah, I mean, have you had to, when you were setting up the medical side, you moved into a new building to be able to facilitate the volume. And so as you were kind of building that operation, safety had to be baked in. You were starting this business in the midst of these realities.
Yep.
When you're looking back at the wood manufacturing side, which for a time was kind of shut down, how are you applying some of those same safety measures? Has it been easier actually to, if this is what's working over here, let's transfer that over to this side of the manufacturing?
Yeah, for sure. Just because of the sheer volume of the amount of people that we have there. So, we're following all the CDC guidelines. We actually are doing above and beyond that just because we have access to shields as well. So we're doing shields, masks, daily temperature checks prior to individuals entering the building. There's like sanitized stations, and we have dedicated people for this, so I'm not going to be able to speak to it extremely intelligently, but there are sanitized stations literally everywhere in that facility. You can't walk 15 feet basically without hitting a sanitizing station. So there's a lot of great guidelines out there. As businesses are starting to open back up, one of the biggest question marks we've gotten, we're talking about in other forums and things like that, is what do we do and how do we keep people, not only our employees, but how do we have our consumers perceive that we are taking all necessary precautions and make them feel safe, whether they're picking up food at the front door or physically shopping in the store. So yeah, we've been dealing with a lot of that as well, but it's been significantly easier to implement that for our 40 employees here than it was at the other facility.
Yeah, well, and I think most businesses would think that they were always offering and operating safe environments, but I think that's both an employee and a consumer habit that won't go away even after the pandemic recedes. I think people are going to think about all sorts of safety and germ transfer much differently now than we have in the past. And so having the sanitation stations within the warehouse isn't something I envision going away just because the CDC no longer requires it. I think a lot of businesses for employee experience are going to continue to want to offer that so the employees feel safe. I think we're just all have such a heightened awareness now of safety as it relates to that. Okay, so so Min, tell us a little bit about, what do you envision kind of as your company's business model moving forward? I mean, you're largely doing a very similar business to what you were doing before, but do you see it continuing to evolve, or do you kind of double down on, again, this curbside delivery model? And we should also mention you run other restaurants, not just So's Chinese Delivery. So I'm sure your experience by each of those restaurants is a bit different as well.
Yeah. As for So Chinese, we continue to work on the most efficient forms of marketing, finding out which efforts provide the highest, return on investment, ROI, and also on return on advertising spend, your ROAS. What we're doing now, which we really didn't spend a lot of time on before, is finding what our key performance indicators are, our KPIs, so that we know how to be most effective with our marketing efforts. As you mentioned, I'm involved in another restaurant group as well, and they are not as technology forward as we are here at So. We're building a Korean barbecue concept in South Austin right now, which historically is kind of the sit-down model and very manual. But what we're adapting to is, we've just had a follow-up meeting with our designers and our architects and said, hey, we need to incorporate, more carry-out options and this market feel grab and go option so that, individual meals. So you're now incorporating quick service into sort of this dine-in, full service restaurant concept. And so I think you're going to see this hybrid of restaurants starting to develop here as we respond to this pandemic. But really our core focus is based so much on the marketing side. These are unprecedented times. And so without question, we're spending a lot more time on marketing. Now, this isn't to be confused with advertising, which is really just a very small component of the marketing umbrella. But we're spending dozens of hours every week building our brand, really working very hard on building our reputation that, we can be proud of. SEO and incorporating AI and machine learning services into our SEO integration has also been a very big part of what we do. I'm not exactly sure if this is the end all solution to everything, but we've made big strides, which is great. But if anything, it's made us realize just how important the right kind of marketing is. So for the listeners out there, my general advice would be to find the right kind of marketing that suits your business, be very aggressive about it, find marketing solutions that work with technology. And once you're in this nice groove, you have to double down on it, but also keep your ear to the ground, because the world changes daily and your marketing strategy has to adapt to it.
Oh, preach. I love it. I love it. You're speaking my language. I mean, you're so right. And I mean, what's so interesting right now is that I think marketing used to be something that small businesses would invest in when they thought they could afford it. And always, but especially right now, you can't afford not to be investing in it. Like right now, your online presence is your storefront. If people can't find you online, they can't support you right now. And always, really, I mean, it really is, we're always surprised by how many businesses still don't have websites, even in 2020. And we're seeing businesses understand that marketing and technology is really what's going to help them not just survive, but to thrive in these times, because you need to make it easy for people to be able to support you. And even if you can't afford the time or the energy or in some cases the investment to build out a full e-commerce solution, at least having a website that explains to customers how they can buy from you is essential. I think people really want to support small businesses right now. I was saying that this morning. Like, I think, but we as the business owners need to make that as easy as possible. And we have to make sure things like our directory listings and our social media, and making sure that we're minding our keywords and SEO strategies, so that when people are searching for our kind of business, we're being returned, and so that they can support us. So, so well said, Min. But you guys, I mean, and you guys really do. So is an incredible case study to look at in terms of best practices in social media and marketing. So thank you for that. Okay, so we're almost out of time. This has been such a wealth of knowledge and information you guys have shared. And again, I love that you three come from very different kinds of industries and have had different kinds of pivots or optimizations throughout this time. But just as a closing, we'll start with Min, and we'll go, I'm doing it the way I can see people. We'll start with Min, go to Ben, and then to Renee. But I think the one thing that I would love for businesses to focus on right now is, this is a new day. This is a new normal. And there are things that are being forced upon your business right now, but in some cases may be good for your business in the long term. So if you could each maybe just name one thing that you've had to put in place that you think will actually benefit your business, that was forced by this, but has been good for it. Some of you have addressed it in your previous answers, but Min, if you could just tell us something that you think has actually been a benefit to your business coming out of this.
Yeah, it's just two real short things here. I have to echo what I just said earlier about the importance of marketing. Without question, it's made us realize that more than ever, marketing is extremely important. It's important you develop methods to calculate the effectiveness of the marketing. Otherwise, really, you're just guessing. We're careful to find services that provide real empirical data and great analytics, which in turn allows us to make informed decisions and not rely just on our gut instincts. And secondly, find as many avenues and channels you can to communicate with your community. It wasn't long ago that someone said that, community it's community over competition. And, there are organizations and there are businesses and there are consumers out there that are really willing and happy to work together and not really against each other. And so the first step is really reaching out and communicating what you need and how you can help. And for us, that has been such a big part of what we do. We now have a new ethos in our small So Chinese delivery business, which is how can we help, right? That's how we respond to things. And so if we can do that, and everything else will really just fall in place.
I love it. Beautiful. Ben?
So yeah, from our side, the thing I would say, and I think it's shifted our mindset, my personal mindset, and I think it's shifted the mindset of a lot of consumers, is just how leveraged you're willing to be, basically, in certain situations. Up till 2 months ago, myself, my company, everything we were leveraging financially, and theoretically, everything we had all the time to continue to grow. And that was because, frankly, I had never, and our generation has really never gone through quote unquote strife or real hard times where we've had to have a pretty significant cash reserve to kind of make it through this time. Now, luckily, the government stepped in with a handful of different programs, and I think is going to help out a lot of companies. But that's definitely something we're changing our mindset moving forward. Not that we're going to always be expecting this type of thing to happen, but we'll be definitely positioning ourselves differently moving forward. And I think it was a great learning lesson that thankfully we were able to get through. And I think is something that all businesses should keep in mind.
Oh, great advice. Yeah. I mean, when we think about how we think about personal finances, the advice is always to have certain number of kind of months of expenses saved up at all times, just in case something happens. And so often people don't apply that to their own business practices. So that's excellent. Renee?
So I'm here, and my team is here to take care of patients, and that's the only reason that we exist, is to provide care to patients. And I think our patients have always felt that. When they come into our office, they're going to see things that are a little bit different. They're going to see the reception chairs spaced further apart. They're going to see us wearing N95 masks and shields. But I think the other thing that they're going to notice is that things actually aren't that different, because we have always been there caring for them and looking out for what's in their best interest. And I think that they're going to see that while there are some changes, the core's the same.
I love it. I love it. Oh my gosh, you guys are all so smart. I really, really appreciate you taking the time to share some of the things that you've changed about your business, some of the things that you've learned, and to pay it forward to other entrepreneurs who are trying to invest in spending time learning from others. So I am truly grateful. I am not any of your mothers, but I'm super proud of what you are doing in your own businesses and what you have evolved. And I'm sure your own mothers are very proud. So thank you for that. And for those of you who haven't seen the Small Business Big Heart series, both Ben and Min's episodes are excellent. You can check those out at deluxe.com/bigheart. And we just really appreciate, again, all of your time and what you're doing for your community and for your customers, and in this case, for other entrepreneurs. So thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Amanda.
We appreciate you being here, Min, Renee, Ben, and thank you, Amanda, for leading this conversation. Just your willingness to share what you're doing, the strength of your character and your businesses really shines through. So thank you. Thanks to those who attended. We actually have more sessions at 2 o'clock, and as well as a happy hour with Amanda and Ty Pennington at 3 o'clock. So stick around if you'd like to have a drink and see a little bit more behind the scenes about how we work together with small business owners across the country. Again, this session is recorded. We'll send it out to you later this week. Have a great day.